Sorry ass DJ.
Hey everybody, how you doing out there? And welcome back to my Friday the 13th ranking the victims' deaths. I am on part 5 right now. When it comes to part 5 of New Beginnings deaths, most of them are very, very weak for me. And I will not be surprised, especially this being a two-parter, that most of the deaths, if not all of this part 1, will be very, very weak. I don't know how far I'm actually going to get, including all the editing. And then I'll get the part 2, hopefully, maybe a couple days later. But anyways, I'll be kind of curious what you guys thought about these deaths. Do you actually enjoy all the deaths? Or there's like ones that are weaker on your point there? If you guys want to kind of give me all of your deaths in this, because we have 19 to actually talk about here. It's another reason why this is going to be a two-parter. Or just kind of give me like maybe your best and your worst on this part 1, or even wait for part 2 video if you want to do that there too. So I figured let's get ourselves started here. Number 19, I'm going to go with a character named Duke. Now, Duke was actually the ambulance driver while we had Roy as the ambulance passenger. So with him is that we actually got Pam and Reggie running away from Roy, and they actually see the ambulance, and when Pam opens up the door, Duke's character falls about halfway out of the car, and of course his throat is slashed, so it's like, okay, right off the bat. I used to think they were kind of cool, but now I look at them after all these years, and even if you do horror movies now and people get their throats slashed, I'm like, been there, done that at least 1,000 times before, so they're not as good as I used to think they are. Number 18 is going to be Anita, which is Damien's girlfriend, and with her is that you got Damien in the outhouse taking a shit, and she's outside and she's like slowly shaking the outhouse, and then all of a sudden it starts getting a little bit faster and faster, thinking it might still be her. Well, after he picks up his pants and tries to open up the door, well, her dead body's blocking, and what he pretty much sees is her throat is also slashed there too. So I'm like, okay, back to back throat slashes. Number 17 is going to be George, which is Reggie the Reckless's grandfather, who I thought was a really sweet guy, and I wish that he didn't end up actually dying. Maybe he ended up have to go into the grocery store in the middle of the night, then maybe go pick up eggs or whatever. No, what happens is you got Pam, who is actually in the cabin where everybody would be staying, and she's walking past a window, and then all of a sudden a dead body comes through the window here, and it's actually George, and she actually sees that his eyes are pretty much pecked out. They're not really pecked out. And I will say this, at least it's slightly better than the other two I just mentioned. Number 16 is actually going to be Matt, who is the owner or co-owner with Pam in the cabin in the woods. And the thing with him is, once again, you have Pam. So 3 out of 4 of these bottom ones, she's actually seeing the dead bodies here. And the thing is that she actually comes across Matt, and he's actually like pinned to a tree, and he has like a railroad nail right in the middle of his forehead there. Again, maybe if they would have kind of shown that Roy was actually going to go after him and maybe had a sledgehammer and had this nail, even just that alone would have maybe at least taken this up maybe 1 or even 2 spots more here. Number 15 is going to be Les and Nell. And if I'm correct, I believe it was Les who actually gets an ice pick in the neck, and I believe it's Neil who actually gets the machete in the stomach. I just wanted to mention their deaths first there. But what they decide to do at the very beginning of the movie, there's actually a dream going on, and this is where you got Corey Feldman in his, the first 5 minutes of this movie, if even that. Is you got these 2 guys who have shovels, and they want to actually dig up Jason's grave, which is very shallow. It doesn't take them that long to dig it up and start prying it open and all of that. And they're looking, and they're like, look what's going on, because there's like snakes in Jason's eyes in the mask and all that. And the thing is, this is where, one gets the machete and one gets the ice pick in the neck, which always made me laugh. It's like the machete, okay, that made sense. But what the hell was up with the ice pick? I don't remember them having an ice pick in part 4. I don't know. I just thought, it was a unique weapon to use on a death and all that. I just thought it was just still kind of strange that they used it on that one there. Number 14 is going to be a character named Raymond. Now, Raymond is actually a bum who's actually trying to get some food in his stomach, and he ends up on Ethel's doorstep, and she's like, oh, what do you want? And I just mentioned about the mail, and then Ethel's like, well, is there anything you can actually do? And he says, well, whatever you actually need done, I will try, and something about clean out all the shit in the chicken coop, and then I'll feed your stomach. Well, the next time we actually see Raymond, he actually is watching two people having sex. He's licking his lips, and then he actually just does a quick little turn like we've had in some of these other previous Friday the 13th victims' deaths here, and he just gets stabbed in the stomach and falls down. It was just kind of another weak death. Number 13 is going to be Robin. Now, I think Robin is actually a good character, and even though it's not about if I like a character or not, what do I think about the death? Well, her and Jake were actually watching a movie, maybe laughed. It was from Paramount Pictures, who, of course, Paramount did, these first 8, and I believe they came back for the remake along with New Line Cinema. Jake was trying to hit on Robin, and Robin starts laughing at him, and Jake walks away. So really with her is that once the movie's done, she shuts off the TV. She's trying to wake up Reggie. For some reason, could not wake him up. So she goes upstairs, and she unrobes, and all she's wearing is just underwear. She looks in the mirror and says, Robin, sometimes you're just a jerk or an asshole. So the thing is that she ends up going on, laying down in a bunk bed up the top one. She actually sees Jake, and we'll get to him in a little bit. So she sees his dead body and screams. So you got Roy, who's actually holding Robin down, and from the bottom bunk has the machete, lifts it up and stabs her. Number 12 is going to be Junior, Ethel's son. So the whole thing with Junior is he gets beat up by Tommy. This is probably the only one of the cool things I like about this first adult Tommy here, and just starts beating him up. So he goes on his bike, and he's actually riding around him and his mom's cabin, and he starts like screaming and he's yelling. He's got blood all over his face there about, kill them and chop them up and, make them in any little pieces and all that there. And then finally, after him and his mom are actually screaming while she's inside and he's outside, he actually gets his head chopped off while he's driving his motorcycle, and I'm like, oh, thank God. I kind of actually wish that it was a little sooner. Then, I felt like it was just like, okay, let's just have them go a few times around just to kind of stretch out this scene a little bit here. Number 11 will be Junior's mom, Ethel. Now, again, I like her as a character, but when you actually read up, and maybe there's even YouTube videos about how her death was actually supposed to go, it's just like with part 7, how they pretty much chopped up every death in that one there. This one, it felt like they cut out a lot of good things that would have been cool. And just like talking with Matt, Ethel's probably would have been up a little higher than this anyways, where you hear the door opening and all of a sudden that she's thinking it's her son coming in and saying, oh, thank God, you fuckwad. Why don't you come on over and have some soup? But it kind of goes back and forth by hearing this noise and then actually seeing the cameras on the outside looking at her through the window. And then the thing is, all of a sudden you get a meat cleaver that comes through the outside window and actually hits her in the face, and her body her head goes in to the pot of soup. And they actually have pictures out there, let alone I read some stuff about how she was supposed to look, and they were going to show the aftermath, and they actually don't ever show that. So again, as much as I like her, and a good starting off of a death, but I mean, just the whole thing where her head just ends up in the pot and that's it. It's like, yeah. Number 10 is going to be a Pete. Now, Pete and a character named Vinny, they're having car trouble. They're in the woods. I think they were supposed to go meet a couple girls or go to a party. Pete is more of the dick between him and Vinny. So the thing is, Pete's like, hey, you know what? I got to go take a piss. Hopefully you're going to have this car working by the time I come back. So the whole thing is he ends up going do what he needs to do. He actually gets scared by a bunny rabbit. That made me laugh there. He comes on back. Vinny is already dead by this point. He's actually leaning over the hood of the car and all of that, but Pete doesn't care. He just wants the car to be started. He goes into the car and he's trying to, turn the engine and all that there, and nothing's really working. Finally, it actually does turn on, and you hear him say, come on, Vinny, let's go. You got Roy that grabs Pete and then slices his throat. Now, I get the whole thing, it's another throat slash, but I kind of like the build-up to his death, and that's why I wanted to put him in at the beginning of the top 10. Number 9 might actually be a surprise to people, and that is actually going to be Damien. Now, after Damien sees that his girlfriend, her throat is slashed and she's blocking the door that he can't get out, so he's like, trying to like lean on all the walls in the outhouse here, and there's a pole coming through, a metal pole from the outside in and all that. At one point, I think he even gets stabbed in one of his legs there, and then he kind of like sort of hobbles over to another wall. And I think we all knew that this was eventually coming. Again, they were just stretching it out, but this is not as bad as Junior's let's drive around like 3 or 4 times before he chop off his head there. And then finally the pole goes in and stabs Damien right through the stomach there, and then it just kind of falls down. And I used to like it, but not as much anymore.
Sorry, it's DJ.